The air was heavier the deeper they hiked, thick with humidity, buzzing with insects, and laced with that wild, earthy smell that clung to everything. Even laughter sounded different here, muted beneath the jungle's endless green ceiling. "Tyler," Rachel called from the back, "please tell me this shortcut isn't just you winging it again." "It's not a shortcut," Tyler replied, checking the GPS on his wrist. "It's a side trail that loops back to the main path. Totally marked. Probably used by rangers or locals." "Uh-huh," Emily muttered. "I'm sure the overgrown vines and zero signage are just decoration." Josh laughed. "Come on, it's all part of the experience. You don't go jungle hiking for a 5-star sidewalk." "Exactly," Tyler said with a grin, swiping away a low-hanging leaf. "Adventure." Ben, who had barely said a word all morning, glanced over his shoulder. "I saw something back there." Everyone stopped. Tyler turned. "What kind of something?" Ben shrugged. "Just movement. Could have been a bird." Rachel frowned. "Could have been." Ben didn't answer. He was already walking again. They had set out that morning on what was supposed to be a 2-day loop hike near the edge of a protected jungle preserve. It was meant to be nostalgic, college friends reconnecting, escaping work and adult stress for a little nature and dirt. Tyler had planned the whole thing. Ben had tagged along last minute, and no one expected the detour to change everything. It started with the path narrowing. Then the light began to fade, though it was barely afternoon. The trees grew denser, leaning in close. Their branches curved unnaturally, like twisted arms stretching toward the hikers. Vines crawled like veins across the trail. Eventually, the trail just stopped. A wall of trees. No fork. No warning. They stood staring at it, panting lightly from the climb. Rachel broke the silence. "Okay, so now what?" Tyler frowned. His GPS blinked slowly, trying to recalibrate. "There should have been a bend. Maybe we missed it. Or maybe we're lost," Emily said, adjusting her pack. "No way," Tyler muttered. "We've only been off the main trail for an hour." Josh wiped sweat from his forehead. "I vote we turn back. I'm sweating out all the beer I've ever consumed." Ben didn't speak. He was staring past the trees. "There's something up ahead," he said suddenly. Tyler followed his gaze. A break in the tree line, just a few feet wide, almost hidden behind the wall of undergrowth. Rachel stepped closer. "It's like a path." "No way that's a trail," Emily said. "That's barely an opening." But Ben was already moving toward it, and without a word the group followed. They pushed through thick vines and brush, and then the jungle parted. A clearing, dead quiet. In the center stood a 2-story house, swallowed by moss and time. The roof was half collapsed, the windows black. Vines clung to the siding like they were trying to pull the structure underground. It didn't belong there. Not this deep in the jungle. Not untouched on any map. And yet, there it was. "Holy crap," Josh whispered. "Who builds a house out here?" "It looks ancient," Emily said, walking slowly around the perimeter. "No sign of people for decades." Rachel stepped up to the porch. Why would anyone live this deep? No road, no trail, no neighbors. Ben walked straight to the door. "Ben." Tyler called. Hey, wait. Ben turned the knob. The door creaked open. A gust of hot, stale air rolled out, heavy with mold, rot, and something else. Something metallic and faintly sweet. Everyone froze. Rachel covered her nose. Ugh. It smells like old meat and mildew. Josh coughed. That's not just age. Something's dead in there. But Ben didn't hesitate. He stepped inside. Tyler jogged up after him. Ben, seriously, what's going on? Ben looked over his shoulder. I've seen this place before. That stopped everyone cold. Rachel frowned. What? Ben's voice was distant. In a dream. A long time ago. Emily crossed her arms. You dreamed about an abandoned house in a jungle you've never been to. Ben didn't answer. He walked into the dark. And again they followed. Inside, the air was thick and warm, clinging to their skin. Dust coated everything. The floor creaked beneath each step, but somehow held. Faded wallpaper peeled from the walls. A broken chandelier lay in the middle of the foyer. Despite the decay, the house looked lived in, like someone had just stepped out a moment ago. Josh pointed at a coat rack near the door. Why are their clothes still hanging? Rachel picked up a framed photo from a table near the stairs. The glass was cracked, but she could still make out the image, a family of 5. Faces blurred, as if time itself had wiped them clean. Something's not right, she said. In the next room, a small table stood surrounded by chairs, 3 still upright, 2 toppled over. A tea set sat untouched in the center. Cobwebs draped over the cups like tablecloths. I'm not staying in here, Emily said. We found something creepy. Great. Let's leave and report it to someone who cares. Tyler hesitated. Ben was now staring at a closed door beneath the staircase. That wasn't in the dream, he murmured. What was? Tyler asked. Ben looked up slowly. The second floor. There's something waiting there. Silence. Then a soft knock. Knock, knock. From upstairs. Everyone froze. Tyler whispered, Tell me one of you did that. No one answered. Knock, knock. Again. Rachel stepped back toward the door. Okay, I'm out. Josh grabbed her arm. Don't. Knock, knock, knock. From behind the door under the stairs. This time, followed by a whisper. A soft, low voice none of them could understand. Words that didn't belong to any language. Ben turned toward the sound. His lips moved, mimicking the words. Tyler grabbed his shoulder. Ben, stop. Ben blinked, looked down, and collapsed. Ben. Tyler dropped to his knees, checking his pulse. Still there, breathing, eyes fluttering. Rachel hovered above them. What the hell just happened? Emily pulled out her phone. No service. Of course. Josh moved toward the door. We have to get him out of here. But the door wouldn't open. Locked. Bolted from the outside. Then the whispers started again. All around them. From the walls. The ceiling. The floor. Rachel backed up toward the corner. I think we woke something up. Ben opened his eyes and whispered a name. Elias. The door was definitely locked. Emily rattled the knob again, then slammed her palm flat against it. It won't open. No shit, Josh muttered, pacing beside the fireplace. You think it locked itself. Rachel knelt next to Ben, who is now propped against the wall, his breathing shallow. He's coming too, she whispered. But it's like he's not really here. Tyler stood at the base of the stairs, staring up at the second floor. The hallway above was completely dark, swallowed by shadows. He said a name before he passed out, Tyler said. Elias. Sounds biblical, Josh offered, cracking his knuckles. Or Cult Y. Rachel glared at him. Now's not the time. Emily turned away from the locked door and examined the frame. Old wood. Rusted latch. Something didn't feel right, not just about the lock, but about the whole house. It was like it had closed its throat around them. They weren't in a house anymore. They were in something that knew they were here. Ben stirred. Everyone turned. His eyes opened slowly, then rapidly blinked as if adjusting to light no one else could see. Tyler rushed over. Ben, you good? Talk to me. Ben sat up straighter, staring straight ahead, as if listening to something none of them could hear. I saw him, he said, voice hoarse. Who? Rachel asked gently. Ben turned to her. The man in the upstairs window. Emily froze. There's no one here but us, she said. Ben looked at her. He watches from the second floor. He's been waiting. For what? Ben didn't answer. Okay, Emily said, clapping her hands once. This is bad. We need to get out of here. That door's locked, but there's got to be another exit. Josh was already pacing the perimeter. No back door that I can see. But this place is weird. Rooms don't line up. I went through that hallway just now and came back out in the same room. You're kidding, Rachel said. Wish I was. Emily moved quickly to the hallway and peeked through a doorway leading to the kitchen. She stepped inside. It was dim, with high windows nearly covered in ivy from the outside. The wallpaper was yellowed, floral, peeling in long, moldy strips. She turned left, expecting to hit the back door. Instead, she walked directly into the foyer. Again, what the hell? Tyler followed her. That's impossible. I went left. There was no turn. Ben stood slowly, leaning against the wall. His voice was hollow. The house doesn't want you to leave yet. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. Rachel turned slowly toward him. How do you know that? I dreamed it, Ben said. Josh snorted. You dreamed this house. I dreamed inside it, Ben corrected, now walking steady, sure. Before I ever came here. I don't remember when the dream started, but I do now. He always stands in the same place. Who does? Emily asked, voice tight. Ben pointed upward. To Elias. A sound echoed above them. A slow dragging noise. Like something heavy being pulled across wood. Everyone stilled. It came again, across the ceiling, directly overhead. Rachel whispered, There's something up there. Tyler grabbed a fire iron from beside the hearth and pointed toward the stairs. We stick together. Emily's heart thudded. Her instincts screamed against this, but what choice did they have? One by one they climbed. The upper hallway was a long spine of blackness. Wallpaper peeled like shedding skin. The temperature dropped noticeably. The air felt thinner, like something was drawing it out of their lungs. Doors lined both sides. Closed. Unmarked. At the far end stood a single open doorway, faintly illuminated by dirty light from a cracked window. Tyler approached the first door, on the left. Locked, he said after trying it. So was the next. And the next. Rachel tested the knobs on the right. Same. Josh said all of them. Then Emily noticed something. The doors weren't all the same anymore. The second door on the left now had 3 vertical scratches gouged into it. Fresh. As if made by fingernails. She touched them. Still damp. They reached the open doorway. It led to a bedroom. The air inside was cold, unnaturally so. The room was untouched by rot. The bed neatly made. A small dresser in the corner. A wooden rocking chair beside the window. The chair was slowly rocking. Empty. Tyler stepped inside. Ben, this the room? Ben nodded. He's always here. Rocking. Rachel stood frozen at the door. There's a photo on the wall, she whispered. They turned. Above the headboard hung a framed picture. It showed 5 people, all pale, all standing outside this house. One of them looked just like Ben. Rachel gasped, "That's you." Ben stared at the photo. "I don't remember it being taken," he murmured. Josh moved toward it. "This can't be real." Then the chair stopped rocking. Abruptly. Instant stillness. A breath of cold air rolled across the room. Emily spun toward the hallway. The door they entered through was now gone. Just wall. "Guys," she started. But then she saw him. A man stood in the corner. Tall. Thin. Wearing black suspenders over a filthy shirt. Face sunken. Eyes hollow. Mouth sewn shut with black twine. He pointed at Emily. And in her mind, she heard, "You don't belong." She screamed. The others turned. The man was gone. Only the rocking chair remained, now tipped over on its side. Ben collapsed to his knees. "They're waking up," he whispered. "Who?" Tyler demanded. Ben looked up, eyes full of something more than fear, recognition. The ones buried beneath the house. Josh had never believed in ghosts. He believed in busted plumbing, creaky stairs, maybe carbon monoxide poisoning. But this was different. This house didn't just feel haunted, it felt like it had teeth. And it was chewing on them slowly. They were still trapped on the second floor. No hallway, no door, no sound. Just them, the knocked-over rocking chair, the photograph on the wall, and Ben, kneeling, murmuring names none of them recognized. Josh knelt beside him. "Ben, hey, snap out of it." Ben blinked, pupils huge and unfocused. "They're still down there." "Who?" "The ones Elias kept." Josh felt the skin on his arms prickle. "What do you mean, kept?" Ben looked up at him. They were buried. Beneath. Hidden. So the house could stay quiet. Tyler stepped toward the window. "We need to get out of this room." Rachel stood near the wall, where the door had been. She ran her hands over the wallpaper, pressing, tapping. "It's just wall. But it wasn't 5 minutes ago." Emily's voice was flat. "The house moves when we're not looking." Josh looked down at the floorboards. They were wide, old, and worn, but one of them had a knot in the wood that looked too dark. Almost like blood? He grabbed a fire iron from the corner and jammed the end into the board. "Josh," Emily said cautiously, "what are you doing? This house wants to trap us. Let's see how it likes being pried open." The iron groaned against the wood. The board cracked. Dust coughed out. And then a stench. Thick, wet rot. Worse than anything they'd smelled yet. Everyone recoiled. Josh pulled the board free and uncovered a narrow, square hole. Rachel covered her mouth. "Oh my God!" Inside the crawl space below, something wrapped in burlap was curled up. Too small for an adult. Too long for a child. Tyler knelt and peeled the burlap back with shaking hands. Bones. Long yellow bones. And a face. Or what was left of one. Half a skull. A broken jaw. And black thread still looped around where the lips had once been sewn shut. Just like the man they'd seen. Josh fell back. "Nope. Nope. I'm done." Ben whispered, "It's him. The first one." "The first what?" Rachel asked, backing away. Ben stood slowly. "The first sacrifice." They stared at him. "You're not making sense," Emily said. Ben's gaze was distant. He made a pact. Elias. A deal with the jungle. To protect the house. To live longer. Keep his family untouched. But the price. Josh's voice shook. Was people. Ben nodded. They were chosen. Brought here. Buried. Beneath the house. Each one silenced. Tyler said, "That's why the house is still standing. It's being preserved." "Because of the ritual," Rachel added. Emily backed up to the window. "Okay, this is insane. We need to find another way down. The stairs. A rope. Anything." But Ben was still talking. "I've seen this before. In dreams. The house remembers every death. And now we're next." The floor creaked beneath them. Not from their weight. From something underneath. Rachel stepped back too far. The floorboards gave way beneath her with a splintering crack. She screamed as she dropped through the hole and vanished into darkness. "Rachel." Tyler dove toward the opening, grabbing at empty air. Josh rushed over, shining his phone's flashlight down. Nothing but black. No sound. No sign of her. They didn't think. They jumped. Josh went first, then Tyler, then Emily. Ben stayed behind, watching, as the rocking chair began to move again. The basement was pitch black. The smell of mold, soil, and rock clung to everything. They landed on dirt. Not concrete, earth. Josh gagged, covering his mouth. "It's a crawl space." Emily spun in the beam of her phone light. "Rachel, where are you?" No answer. Only the sound of dripping water. And breathing. But not theirs. Tyler whispered, "Over there." A faint light flickered deeper into the crawl space. They followed it, ducking under low beams and stepping over old crates and bones. Yes, bones. Dozens of them, scattered across the floor like forgotten trash. Josh's hands shook as he pointed his light at a rotted shoe still laced around a foot. The rest of the body was missing. "This is where he kept them," he whispered. Tyler turned. There. A figure crouched in the corner. Rachel. She was facing the wall, motionless. Rachel. Emily ran forward and grabbed her shoulder. Rachel turned slowly. Her eyes were wide, blank, her mouth sewn shut with black thread. Emily screamed. Josh stumbled back. Tyler rushed forward, but Rachel blinked and the thread vanished, like it was never there. She coughed, gasped, and fell into Tyler's arms. I don't remember how I got down here, she whispered. He was talking to me. Who? Her lips trembled. Elias. He says we don't belong here. Josh looked around. We're not staying to find out what that means. Emily pointed. There's a stairwell. Hidden behind old furniture, a spiral staircase twisted upward. Iron rusted, coated in dust. Josh led the way. They climbed for what felt like forever. When they emerged, they were no longer in the second floor. They were in a new room. Large, octagonal, wood panel walls, and symbols burned into every surface. In the center of the room, an altar, covered in vines, and blood, fresh blood. Rachel backed away. Emily whispered, "This isn't a house." Tyler nodded. "It's a trap." Josh stared at the walls. Each one had a name carved into it, in deep, jagged letters, and one of them said Ben Wyatt. Josh turned to Tyler. "Dude, Ben's last name is Wyatt, right?" Tyler's face drained of color. "He never told me that." The door behind them creaked. They turned. Ben stood in the threshold, expression blank, eyes black, and from his mouth came Elias's voice. "The house needs one more." Ben stood in the doorway of the octagonal room, or what used to be Ben. His silhouette was the same, but something was wrong. His face was slack, lips parted slightly, and his eyes, those weren't Ben's eyes anymore. They were sunken, empty, glossy like polished onyx. And when he opened his mouth, the voice that came out was not his own. "The house needs one more." The room seemed to grow colder. Rachel's breath hitched. "Ben." Tyler stepped forward cautiously. "Listen, man, whatever's happening, you don't have to let it in." But the thing that wore Ben's body tilted its head and said softly, "He already did." Josh grabbed Emily by the wrist and whispered, "We need to move. Now." Rachel's legs felt frozen. She stared at Ben Elias, who slowly raised one hand and pointed to the altar at the center of the room. "The offering must be willing," he said. "But if not, the house will choose." Emily's voice trembled. "Choose what?" He didn't answer, just stared. Then, suddenly, Ben's body spasmed. His knees buckled, and he dropped to the floor with a sickening thud. They all rushed forward. Tyler flipped Ben onto his back. His eyes had returned to normal, but he was gasping like a drowning man. "What happened?" he croaked. "You were gone," Rachel said quietly. "You weren't you." Ben blinked, dazed. I remember a voice inside me, telling me things, showing me things. I couldn't stop it." Josh stood near the altar, eyes darting across the symbols etched into the wood. "There's blood here," he muttered, "still wet." Emily stepped up beside him. "It's not just blood. Look at this." She pulled back a vine. Carved beneath it were 5 names. Rachel, Josh, Emily, Tyler, Ben. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered. This can't be here. Tyler shook his head. We're not part of this. We didn't agree to anything. Ben looked up, pale and sweating. We already did. What? Rachel asked. He swallowed hard. When we entered the house, when we stepped over the threshold, we were seen, marked. Josh turned away. Screw this. We burned this place to the ground. He pulled out his lighter. Rachel flinched. Josh, wait. He struck it. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. Emily tried hers. Same. Ben's voice was hoarse. You can't burn what's alive. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the room. The door slammed shut. Lights flickered above them, though there were no bulbs, no electricity. Just a reddish glow radiating from cracks in walls, like veins beneath skin. Rachel backed away from the altar, and then the chanting started. Low, whispered, all around them. It came from nowhere and everywhere. The symbols on the wall glowed faintly. Tyler grabbed Ben's arm and helped him up. We have to go. Back through the crawl space. We find a way out. But the walls began to shift. Literally, the octagonal room stretched. One wall folded inward. Another opened. And behind it, a staircase leading down. Not the one they'd climbed. A new one. Rachel stared. Where does it lead? Ben shook his head. Nowhere that lets us leave. But the chanting grew louder, and above the new staircase, carved into the archway, was a single word. Choose. I'm not choosing anyone, Tyler said. We all get out. Together. Emily touched his shoulder. Tyler, what if the house won't let us? What are you saying? I'm saying maybe someone has to stay. Or die. For the rest to go. No, Rachel's voice was firm. There's another way. Josh stepped toward the staircase, his fists clenched. I'll go down. See what it is. Maybe it's a bluff. Tyler grabbed his arm. Don't be a hero, man. Josh smirked. Wasn't planning on dying. Just want to see what this place is hiding. He turned and started down the stairs. Rachel reached out. Josh, wait. But he was already gone. They waited. 1 minute. 2. The chanting stopped. Then the room went silent. A horrible, suffocating silence. Rachel's pulse thundered in her ears. Then a scream. Josh's scream. From far below. Cut short. Tyler charged after him, but Rachel grabbed his shirt. No, she shouted. That's what it wants. Ben's face was pale. He's gone. The choice was made. Emily stared at the altar. Josh's name was now carved deeper. Blood dripped from the letters. They didn't speak for a long time. Eventually, the door creaked open behind them. No breeze. No noise. Just open. An invitation. Tyler whispered, "It let us go." Rachel looked at the names again. Josh's was no longer the last. Another name had appeared. Emily. Josh was gone. The altar had claimed him. His name burned into the wood like it had always been there. And now, as Emily stood beside it, staring at her own name etched just beneath his, she felt the house shift again, not in the walls, but in her mind. It whispered, not in words, in memories, in twisted memories. I can still hear him screaming, Rachel said, hugging herself. We shouldn't have let him go, Tyler muttered. Ben didn't speak. He stood by the door, motionless, eyes locked on a hallway that had not been there 5 minutes ago. The walls had rearranged again. The layout of the house didn't follow logic anymore. Emily touched the frame of the new doorway. It felt warm, like flesh. She recoiled. We need to move, Ben finally said. Where? Tyler asked. Every time we choose a direction, the house changes it. We go forward, Ben said simply. It's the only way out. Rachel hesitated. And what if forward is a trap? Ben's eyes flicked toward Emily. Then the house will take who it wants. They entered the hallway in silence. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet, groaning like ribs. Emily kept her eyes on the wallpaper, old floral print peeling in long strips, but after a few steps, she noticed something strange. The same pattern repeated. Not the wallpaper, the hallway. Same side table. Same cracked vase. Same torn painting of the sea. She counted her steps. 12. And she saw the hallway loop. I think we're going in circles, she whispered. No, Tyler said, checking his watch. We've been walking for 5 minutes. Ben shook his head. Time doesn't matter in here. They walked another 12 steps, and the table appeared again. Same broken vase. Same sea painting. Only now, the sea in the painting was stormy. Emily stared. That wasn't like that before. Rachel stepped closer. It's changing. They walked again. The hallway looped. Same painting. Now the sea was darker. The waves higher. Ben stopped. He pointed at the painting. The house is showing us something. Like what? Tyler asked. Ben walked up and touched the canvas. His fingers sank into it, as if the painting was water. Real water. It rippled. Emily backed up. This is insane. Ben looked over his shoulder. It's not a painting. It's a window. To what? Ben pulled his hand back, and from the surface of the painting, a face rose. Josh's face. His mouth sewn shut. Eyes wide with terror. The surface of the painting trembled, and then his hands reached out, clawing for help. Tyler pulled Ben away just as the canvas ripped itself open, spilling freezing salt water onto the floor. The hallway flooded ankle deep in seconds. Emily screamed. The water kept rising. Move! Tyler shouted. They turned and ran, splashes echoing, walls groaning. The hallway twisted as they ran. Furniture appeared where it hadn't been. Staircases formed and unformed in front of them. One wrong step, and the house would swallow them. They burst through a door and slammed it shut behind them. Inside, a library. Silent. Dark. Hundreds of books lined warped shelves, most falling apart. The water didn't follow. Rachel slumped against the wall, gasping. What the hell is happening? Emily stared at the titles. Each spine had a name. She picked one up. It said Emily Monroe, entry begins. She opened it. Inside, scenes from her own life. Written in flowing black ink. Things she hadn't told anyone. Private thoughts. Hidden regrets. And at the final page, offered but not yet taken. Her knees buckled. Ben stood by the fireplace, staring into it. "There's no way out," he said softly. "The house was never meant to be escaped. It feeds on moments, loops fears." Rachel stood and grabbed a book. It had her name, and Josh's, but the pages inside were blank. Then, as she turned them, the ink appeared. Her death. Her body floating in water. Eyes sewn shut. Emily dropped the book. The house was showing them possible endings. No probable endings. Unless they broke the cycle. Ben whispered, "I remember this room." Emily turned. "How?" "I dreamed of it once. I was standing in the fire. Burning. Screaming." Tyler pulled him back. "Then we don't stay here." Ben looked at the chimney. Words had appeared in soot. "Give me her." They all turned to Emily. She froze. Rachel backed away. No, we're not doing this." But Emily felt it too. The heat in the room. The attention. The choice. Then, a whisper in her own voice. "You brought them here." She shook her head. "No, Tyler planned this." But something deep inside her knew. She'd seen this house before. In dreams. She had never told anyone. She had felt drawn to the detour. She had followed it when Tyler hesitated. And now, the house was showing her why. "I was the key," she said aloud. Ben nodded. "You opened the door." The books rustled. All of them. Their pages turned in unison. And the walls breathed. "We need to destroy this room," Rachel said. "Burn it." Tyler shook his head. "We tried. Lighters don't work." Emily stood, trembling. "Maybe the fire has to come from me." She stepped toward the fireplace. The flame inside flickered blue. She knelt. "Take it back," she whispered. "Take the dreams. Take the memory. Take what brought me here." The fire grew brighter, hotter, redder. Then, it went out. The books collapsed into ash. The walls cracked, and the door behind them swung open. A cool breeze flowed in. The hallway beyond it was quiet. Still. Different. Rachel whispered, "Did it work?" Emily didn't answer. She looked down at the ashes where her book had been, and saw one final line burned into the wood. "The house always echoes what we bring inside." Tyler had explored every inch of the house. At least he thought he had. But no matter how long he'd walked its endless halls, no matter how many impossible rooms he'd stepped into, one place had never come up. The attic. They'd seen bedrooms. The altar room. Libraries, kitchens, staircases that curled into oblivion. But no attic. And yet, every time he passed a certain corridor, he felt something pressing down from above, like an invisible weight hanging over them, waiting, watching. The new hallway was unlike the others, cleaner, untouched by rot. The wallpaper was smooth. The air was cool, not choking like in the rest of the house. At the end of it, a narrow staircase leading up. Rachel saw it first. Was that always there? Ben shook his head. No. Emily narrowed her eyes. There's no attic. There's never been an attic. Tyler walked toward the stairs. "I think we're supposed to find it now." They climbed in silence. The steps creaked but didn't give. With every step, the air grew colder, until their breath misted in front of their lips. At the top, a wooden door. No knob, no lock, just a blackened keyhole in the shape of an eye. And carved above it, "No entry." "Great," Tyler muttered. "Locked." Emily stepped forward and reached into her coat. She pulled out something Tyler hadn't seen before. A small bone-white key. Rachel gasped, "Where did you get that?" Emily stared at it, her expression blank. "I don't remember." The key slid into the eye-shaped lock with a soft click. The door opened inward. Darkness spilled out, not black, but void-like gray, silent and heavy. Tyler stepped in first and froze. The attic was bigger than the house should allow. Massive, empty, and completely silent. No sound, not even footsteps. Their movements felt muffled, like they'd stepped inside a dream someone else was having, or a memory. Ben's voice was low. "This is where he did it." "Did what?" Rachel asked. "The final ritual." They walked slowly through the space. The floor was bare, but etched into the wood beneath the dust were names. Dozens of them, some old, some recent. Tyler stopped at one. He reached down and brushed it off. Josh. Still fresh. Still bleeding. The floor absorbed the blood. They moved deeper, and then they saw it. In the center of the room, a circle. Not just carved, but burned into the wood. Inside it sat a chair. And in that chair, a figure. Tall, thin, wearing a burlap sack over its head. Its arms were bound to the chair with coarse rope, now rotted and fraying. But the figure didn't move. It just sat. Rachel whispered, "Is that Elias?" Ben stepped forward. "No, that's what's left of him." Tyler's body went rigid. The figure exhaled. Once. Long and slow. The sack moved. Its chest rose. Emily backed away. "It's alive." The figure raised its head and whispered. She opened the door. The sack fell away. There was no face. Only a gaping hole where the mouth should be. And within it, flickering fire. Ben dropped to his knees. "The fire doesn't burn. It feeds." The figure stood. The ropes unraveled on their own. Elias, what was left of him, stepped forward. And from the walls, shapes began to form. People, dozens, flickering, transparent, all watching, all whispering, their eyes sewn shut. Emily gripped Tyler's arm. "We shouldn't be here." Rachel turned to run, but the attic door was gone. Walls had grown over it like bark. The house was closing in. Ben stood. "This is the final room." Tyler looked around. "Final for who?" Ben turned to him. "For all of us." The shadows moved. Rachel screamed. One of the ghostly figures reached for her. Its hand passed through her shoulder, but left a mark. A bruise in the shape of a fingerprint. Tyler swung at it. His hand passed through empty air. Elias raised his arm, and the floor split open. Below, a sea of fire. Faces writhed in it. Some were screaming. Some were smiling. All were familiar. Tyler saw himself among them. Burning. Smiling. Ben walked to the edge. He looked down. "This is where they were taken," he said. "Where their memories were eaten." "Who?" Rachel cried. Everyone who dreamed of this place, Ben said. Everyone who stepped inside. Emily's voice cracked. So what do we do? Ben turned. We end it. He stepped into the circle and sat in the chair. Tyler rushed forward. No, Ben. But vines shot up from the floor, wrapping Ben's arms to the rests. The fire in Elias's mouth glowed brighter. Ben screamed, and the entire attic shook. The watchers howled. Elias opened his arms wide, and then the flames erupted. Tyler shielded his face. Rachel screamed. Emily collapsed. And when the light faded, Ben was gone. Elias was gone. The attic was empty. The door reappeared, wide open, sunlight pouring in. Tyler helped Rachel up. He turned to Emily. She opened her eyes. My name's gone, she whispered. He looked down. So was his. The floor was blank. They walked out of the attic, down the stairs, through the house. The layout was normal again, still decaying, still haunted, but no longer alive. Outside, the jungle was quiet. The trail was clear. They didn't speak. They just walked, and never looked back. But Tyler knew one thing. The attic wasn't gone. It never had been. It simply forgot them. For now. They didn't speak for the first mile. The house behind them stood silent and gray, nearly swallowed by the green. Its roof sagged, its vines curled inward, as if it was going back to sleep. But Rachel didn't trust sleep anymore, or silence, because the jungle wasn't silent. Not now, not anymore. The trail twisted tighter than she remembered. Birdsong had vanished. Instead, there was breathing. Not human, not wind, something deeper. With every step, roots curled underfoot, thick and gnarled, like the jungle was growing faster. Watching them. Something's wrong, Emily said quietly, stepping over a cluster of mossy stones. Tyler nodded. It's not the same trail we came in on. Rachel turned slowly. Behind them, the path was already disappearing, overgrown, sealed, hidden. Like the jungle was trying to keep them in, or keep something else out. She stared up at the canopy. No birds, no bugs, no sky, just green, and whispers. Faint, just under the wind. I think it's following us, Emily said. Tyler's hand gripped the small axe from his pack. Let it try. Rachel stepped off the trail and crouched beside a root the width of her arm. It pulsed, like a vein. She pressed her palm against it, and saw, not with her eyes, with her memory, a flash of a man, Elias, kneeling in the jungle, barefoot, whispering to the soil. Blood smeared on his lips. He fed it something, a finger, then a child's tooth, and the jungle opened its roots and swallowed them whole. In return, it gave him time. Rachel fell back, gasping. Tyler helped her up. What happened? She looked at him with wide eyes. He made a deal. Not with demons, not spirits, with the jungle itself. Tyler frowned. What do you mean, the jungle? It's alive, she whispered. It's always been alive. Emily ran ahead and stopped at a fork in the trail. Left or right. Both paths were narrow and wrapped in vines. One led uphill, the other into the tree's shadow. Tyler pointed. We go up. Stay in the light. But Rachel shook her head. No. She pointed down. That way. Why? Because it's where the roots lead. They descended into shadow. The air thickened. The ground pulsed. And then they saw it. A stone circle, half buried in vines. Ancient. In its center, a tree stump, bleached white, cracked hollow. Inside it, bones. Small ones. Animal. Human. Unclear. Emily choked back a sob. This is where it started. Rachel nodded. Elias made his first offering here. Tyler circled the stump. Why would he do that? To save someone, Rachel said. He asked the jungle to protect his family. Emily whispered, and the jungle asked for blood. The trees creaked, not in the wind, like bones, like warning. Rachel stepped into the circle and looked down at the hollow stump. There was something inside, a scroll wrapped in damp twine. She pulled it free. Carefully, the parchment nearly crumbled in her hands, but the writing held. To take root in the green, one must become seed. To become seed, one must be broken. To be broken, one must give the name. The name wakes the ground. She swallowed. What name? Tyler asked. Rachel looked at him. Her voice was barely a whisper. Ben. The moment she spoke it, the vines moved. All around them, the jungle groaned. The stump cracked open further, revealing a narrow tunnel beneath. Carved into earth, lined with roots, and faintly glowing. Emily stepped back. We're not going down there. Tyler looked at Rachel. Do we have a choice? Rachel stared into the tunnel. She could feel it. The truth was down there. So was Ben. Maybe even part of herself. She stepped into the opening. The tunnel was tighter than expected. It breathed, and it whispered as they crawled. Rachel couldn't understand the words, but her bones knew what they meant. Beneath the jungle was memory, blood, bargains, and something still waiting. They emerged into a cavern, wider than the house. Tree roots hung from the ceiling like ribs, and in the center of the floor, a stone table. A body lay on it, not rotting, not fresh, somewhere in between. Rachel approached slowly. It was Ben, eyes closed, mouth sewn, but breathing. He's alive, Emily whispered. Rachel stared down. Something was growing from his chest. A root, twisting upward, wrapping around his heart. She turned to Tyler. We can still save him. How? We give the jungle something else. The earth shook. A voice, low, not human, echoed from the walls. Name the offering. Rachel froze. So did Tyler. So did Emily. The vines moved, waiting, hungry. Rachel looked at the body on the table, then at Emily, then at herself. She stepped forward, raised her hands, and said, My name is Rachel Green. I stepped into the house. I carried the key. I opened the door. The roots surged forward. Emily cried out, No, Rachel, don't. But Rachel was calm. I started it. I finish it. The roots wrapped around her ankles, her legs, her chest, pulling her toward the stump in the center of the chamber. Rachel looked at them one last time and smiled. Tell the house I chose. Then the jungle closed its mouth, and the roots took her home. Rachel was gone. The roots had pulled her under like water dragging a body into a riverbed. 1 second she was there, arms open, brave, determined, and the next the jungle swallowed her whole. The silence left behind was worse than her scream would have been. Tyler didn't speak. Neither did Emily. They stood in the underground chamber, still lit by the sickly green glow of the root veins above. The stone table where Ben had been lying was now empty. Gone. Just like Rachel. Only the faint pulse of the jungle remained, a low, steady rhythm that beat beneath their feet. Thump, thump, thump. Where's Ben? Emily whispered. Tyler turned slowly. Behind them, the tunnel they came through had collapsed, closed by twisting roots. But ahead a corridor had opened. Wide, straight, too straight, and at the far end, flickering in golden light, a door. Tyler grabbed Emily's hand. Let's finish this. The corridor walls pulsed as they walked. Some roots whispered as they passed. Others twitched like nerves. The air grew warmer, then colder, then still. It felt like the house again, but buried, deeper, more honest. This wasn't a place made of wood and memory. This was the heart, and it wanted something. As they reached the final doorway, Tyler hesitated. The door was beautiful, hand-carved, oak, polished. It looked wrong among the jungle, like it didn't belong. Doesn't feel like an exit, Emily muttered. Tyler reached for the handle and froze. Someone was standing behind them. He turned slowly. A figure stepped out from the shadows. Tall, familiar, mouth sewn shut, eyes dark. It was Ben. Emily gasped. No. Ben stared at them. But this wasn't the Ben they'd left behind. This version had no wounds, no root in his chest. He looked whole. He looked perfect. Too perfect. He raised one hand and pointed at the door. Then he spoke. No thread now. Just one word. Choose. 2 more doors slid open on either side of the main one. Now there were 3. Left, right, center. Each glowing faintly. Each waiting. Tyler's voice was low. It's a test. Emily nodded. And the fake Ben wants us to fail. The center door looked safe, inviting. Warm lights spilled from the cracks. Birdsong echoed beyond it. The air smelled like spring. It was hope. Too much of it. Tyler stepped toward it, and his foot passed over a root. It winced, like it felt pain. He backed up. It's a trap. The left door was cold, covered in frost. Beyond it, darkness pulsed. No sound, no scent, just emptiness. Emily whispered, "What about the right one?" They turned. The third door was slightly open, and through the crack, they saw Rachel. She stood in the hallway, looking away from them. Silent, still, her shoulders hunched, her back shaking like she was crying. Tyler called out, "Rachel." She didn't move. Emily stepped forward. "Wait, how do we know it's really her?" Tyler swallowed hard. He took a coin from his pocket. Something Rachel had tossed him on their first day hiking. "Souvenir from the trail," she joked. "Lose it and I'll haunt you." He dropped it through the door. It hit the floor near her feet. She turned and smiled. Not cruelly, not wrongly, just Rachel. Tyler rushed in. Emily followed. The hallway stretched long behind them, but the moment they stepped through, the door slammed shut. They were sealed in. Rachel walked toward them. Her voice was soft. "You picked the right one." Tyler moved to hug her. She held up a hand. "I can't leave." "What?" Emily stepped forward. "You chose to stay. You said, 'Tell the house I chose.'" Rachel nodded. "But I didn't say you couldn't visit." She gestured behind her. The hallway curved. At the end, another door. Not beautiful, not glowing, but real. With splintered iron handle. No promises. Just an end. "You've reached the rootless part of the jungle," Rachel said. "No more vines. No more voices. No more traps." Tyler stared. "What's behind it?" Rachel smiled sadly. "The end. Or a beginning. I don't know. I never got to go through it." Emily stepped forward. "But you're not bound anymore." Rachel shook her head. "I'm part of the house now, but not its prisoner." She reached out and touched their shoulders. "You are." Tyler stepped toward the final door. His hands didn't shake. Emily nodded once. They grabbed the handle together, turned it, and stepped through. Light. Real light. Sun. Trees. The real jungle. Birds chirping. Air sweet with earth. Behind them, nothing. No door. No house. No trail. Just jungle. Alive, but no longer watching. They were free. At least for now. Because when Tyler opened his palm, Rachel's coin was still there. And it was warm. They didn't speak for hours. There was nothing left to say. The hike down the final ridge had been disorienting, like the jungle wanted to confuse them one last time. But eventually, they found a dirt road, and a ranger station, and people. Real ones. 2 days later, Emily sat on a hospital cot, wrapped in thin blankets, trying to answer the same question she'd been asked 10 times. "Can you tell us where your friends are?" She gave the same answer every time. They didn't make it. She didn't tell them about the house, or the vines, or the way the jungle watched. She knew how that would sound. So she just repeated, "We got lost. We're lucky to be alive." Tyler was in the room next door. They'd reunited only once after the debrief. He hadn't said much, just handed her something. Rachel's coin. Still warm. The authorities ruled a tragic survival incident. They weren't charged. They weren't questioned further. They were flown home. Back to jobs, families, routines. Normal life. But nothing felt normal. Because they had brought it back. It started small. Emily's plants wouldn't stop growing. She'd trim the ivy in her kitchen window, only to find it touching the floor again the next morning. Then the dreams came back. Hallways that changed. Footsteps behind her. Doors she never opened, now creaking open by themselves. Tyler called late one night. She answered on the first ring. "Is it happening to you too?" she asked. He didn't need to clarify. "Yes," he said. "It's here." They met in person the next day. A diner. Midday. Crowded. Safe. but the shadows in the corner still moved too much. I keep finding dirt in my shoes, Tyler said. I live in an apartment, Emily whispered. Where would jungle soil come from? They both fell quiet. Outside the window, a crow watched them from a power line. Just one. Still. Unblinking. Rachel had once said that some birds remember faces. Emily wondered if this one was remembering or waiting. What do we do? She asked. Tyler pulled a notepad from his jacket. On it, a list of names, all from news articles. All hikers, campers, backpackers who'd gone missing in the same stretch of jungle. Same area, same month, every year, going back decades. Most were never found, he said. Some came back. And they weren't the same. They found one of them, a woman named Marla Hart. She'd been rescued 12 years ago. Now lived in a trailer near the edge of a national park. Kept to herself. Claimed she had nothing to say about the jungle. They drove 5 hours to see her. She didn't answer the door, but on her window, written in condensation, I see you. They drove home in silence. That night, Emily found a root growing through her bathroom tile. It hadn't been there earlier. It pulsed, slowly, like it was asleep, waiting. She texted Tyler, "It's coming back. We never really left." He replied, "We need to go back. Finish it, or it'll finish us." The next morning, she woke up with scratches on her legs. 3 perfect lines, just like the door upstairs in the house. They met again in the same diner, and the crow was still there, closer now, watching. Emily didn't order anything. She just whispered, "We left the jungle." Tyler nodded, but the house didn't leave us. She dropped Rachel's coin on the table. It rolled to a stop, and then slowly, impossibly, stood upright, on its own. Tyler reached into his coat, pulled out something she hadn't seen before. A piece of wood, gray, smooth, burned around the edges. It was one of the altar fragments. "It was in my bag," he said. "I didn't put it there." Emily stared at it. The grain in the wood looked like an eye. They sat in silence. Then the radio in the diner crackled. Static. Then a voice. "The house remembers." They looked at each other. They weren't hearing things. Other patrons continued eating. No one else had heard it. Just them. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The root in her bathroom had grown longer. The lights flickered, and when she looked in the mirror, her reflection was smiling before she did. The next day, she bought 2 plane tickets. To go back. Back to the jungle. To the trail. To the place the map doesn't show. "If it's still there," she told Tyler, "we end it." He didn't argue, because they both knew. The house didn't need a roof to live in. It just needed them. The jungle didn't resist them this time. No missing trailheads. No strange twists in the path. It welcomed them, as if it had been waiting. The trees parted easily, the vines retreating, the heat heavy but familiar. Emily could feel it beneath her boots, the hum of the soil, the roots beneath awake. Tyler walked beside her, silent, holding a small satchel of items, the coin, the altar shard, and the scroll Rachel had uncovered. It was all they had left. They didn't speak until the clearing came into view. And there it was, still standing, the jungle house. It looked older now, smaller, weaker, the windows hollow, the walls sagging, covered in vines so thick it was hard to tell where what ended and the jungle began. Emily whispered, "It's dying." Tyler shook his head. "It's hiding." The front door creaked open before they touched it. Of course it did. Inside, the house was quieter than before. No whispers, no shifting, just breathless, decayed silence. Emily stepped over the threshold, and it began again. The floorboards stretched, the wallpaper uncurled like skin, and in the shadows, footsteps. They walked through the ruined rooms. The dining table was still set. The library shelves collapsed, the walls bleeding symbols they didn't remember carving. Then the hallway opened ahead of them, and at the end, the attic stairs. Tyler turned to Emily. "This is it." She nodded. They climbed together. The attic hadn't changed. The same circle in the center, the same scorched symbols. But there was no chair this time, no fire, no Elias, only roots, growing across the floor, tangled, moving slightly, and in the center of the room, a figure, curled, sleeping, wrapped in vines. Emily stepped closer. It was Rachel. Her eyes opened. She didn't scream. She smiled. "I told it I chose," she said, "but it never stopped choosing." Emily dropped to her knees. "We're here to end it." Rachel looked past her, to Tyler, then to the satchel. "Then you know what you have to do." Tyler opened the bag. Inside, the coin, the altar fragment, and the scroll. Rachel's hand reached out. "I remember now," she said softly. "Elias was never meant to be a guardian. He was meant to be compost, a root to start the circle. But he refused to rot. He kept feeding the house instead of letting it die." Tyler placed the coin in Rachel's hand, then the scroll, then the wood. Rachel clutched them to her chest. The vines twitched, the walls cracked, the attic floor glowed. A heartbeat began to pound through the air. "You're the seed now," she whispered to Emily. "You made it out. That means you can plant the end." Emily stepped into the circle. Roots rose around her ankles, soft, like water. Rachel whispered, "Give it a name." Emily closed her eyes and spoke. "The house is done." The attic shook. Light burst from the floor. The roots screamed. The windows shattered inward. From below, fire. Real fire. Orange. Hungry. Cleansing. The walls groaned as if in agony. And Rachel smiled. Emily turned. "Come with us." Rachel stepped back. "I belong to it now." "Why?" Tyler asked. "Because someone has to bury it." The fire spread fast. Faster than it should have. Emily grabbed Tyler's hand. They ran. Down the attic stairs. Through the hall. Across the cracking floorboards. The front door burst open just before they reached it. And they stepped into the sun. Behind them, the house collapsed in silence. Not an explosion. Not a roar. Just a shudder. A last breath. And then it was gone. No rubble. No smoke. Just vines. Curling where it used to be. Covering the ground like a grave. They stood in the clearing. Alone. Free. Truly free. The air was still. The jungle was quiet. and nothing whispered. Later, as they walked down the path, Tyler paused. He looked at Emily. "You think it's really over?" Emily didn't answer right away. Then she pulled the coin from her pocket. It was cold now. Just metal. No warmth. She let it fall to the ground. It didn't stand. It rolled once and stayed down. She looked back at the trail. "There's no house," she said. "No altar. No roots." Tyler smiled. "Good." And they kept walking, but deep beneath the earth, where the roots used to whisper. A single shoot pushed upward through the soil, and above it a crow circled once, then vanished.